Hi, everyone. I'm Gwen Callahan. I'm the co-director of Portland Horror Film Festival, and I am so excited to be here with all the filmmakers from Shorts Block 4. We have Hassan El Amin with The Strong Box, Sean Keller, The Boy Who Woke Up Dead, Peter Raver with Spaghetti Face,
Hey.
Dan Hickey with The Cookie Crumbles, Anisha Savan with I'll Never Be Alive Again, and Ryan Port with The Last Christmas. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. There's It's so nice to see your faces. I know Dan's gonna be here with us at the festival all week, and I'll get to see him in person again. But hopefully someday you guys can all join us again in the theater when flight prices aren't so extremely high.
Right.
But thank you for being part of our festival. It's really important to us to be able to talk with you all as well as show your films. Hassan, your film The Strongbox is such a fun look at a person who's kind of in dire straits and is desperate to make some money and finds this mysterious box with a gold treasure inside. But there's also an animated talking head. Are you familiar with Reanimator? And if so, were you at all influenced by that film here?
Yeah, well, I was influenced by a number of films from the late 80s and 90s, as well as old Twilight Zone episodes. I like that kind of creepy, sort of ironic horror that came from a lot of that stuff. And yeah, it was a big inspiration on me. The film was just paired recently with the 40th anniversary of Creep Show and Show before that. And yeah, films like that, they really inspired me, and were part of the reason why I wanted to make this film.
And it's such a wonderful horror comedy too, because we kind of follow along with the main character, and he's like, I don't want to touch this gross head that's been in a box. Put socks on his hand, lifts it out of the box. Oh, it's so funny. Did you have an actor in mind when you wrote this, or did you just cast them for the part?
Well, I just knew I had to have somebody that could pull off the look of terror as well as the humor, and so I found a great actor, Joseph Fox, who's a stand-up comedian trying to make his way into film. And so it was really a good pairing between the two of us because we were both learning and stumbling along at the same time.
It was really nice. Where did the idea of the box? Because we've had a number of films this year, I think more than ever before. Uh, Films involving some kind of chest or box or trunk that is locked up and then gets open and has usually there's some kind of demon or witch or something inside of it.
Right.
And it was a nice departure to have a funny talking head. And
Well, yeah, I love box movies. I love trinkets. I love talismans. I love all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, I've made box movies before, but I think the idea to kind of switch it up a little bit was just something I always try to do. I mean, I always try to have a unique little spin on it. And so, and the inspiration for this one actually was just something small. I work graveyard shift, and I came out of work at like 3 in the morning, and I exit my job straight into a row of elevators. And normally I just go down to the parking lot and go home, but in this particular night I came out and the elevator was open, and there's this box sitting in the middle of the elevator, and there's no one around. And I'm like, that doesn't look right. And so I'm going to take the stairs. And but just on the way home, I just started to wonder what was in it, and then it just kind of snowballed from there into this whole idea.
fun. Oh my gosh. It's that what's in the box? What's in the box? Very nice. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
sure.
Sean, I'm gonna hop over to you and let's talk about The Boy Who Woke Up Dead. And this is such
Yeah.
a beautiful sort of elegiac poem and animated piece. Um, Tell us about how this what the genesis of the animation and where the poem came from.
Well, I'm a dad, and so gateway horror is super important to me. I think it's really crucial to scare your kids. Um, and so 13 years ago, when my kids were younger, I wrote a volume of creepy kids poems that I then would share with their school, and I read them in class. And so there's at least one little elementary school's worth of kids that grew up on my unpublished poetry. But I'd always wanted to turn them into shorts, and this one had been sitting for a long time. And you know, it's about a dead child, which is like an ultimate taboo. And so I wanted to do a sweet, sort of sad, almost like Vincent, you know, Tim Burton's Vincent inspired piece about, you know, death and grief, and, you know, give something, you know, kids a concept of, oh, I could die, which is, you know, maybe not what most parents want to tell their kids, but yeah, there's no art without that concept of mortality. So I think you work that into kids early and they love it. They really do like lean into the things that scare them. And so I 13 years later, a friend of mine is bugging me to direct something finally. I've been a screenwriter for a long time, but I never directed anything. And so he has a sort of director's workshop here in LA called Just Scare Me, where a bunch of us, you know, work things together and share ideas and just experiment. And this was an experiment where I had a friend a couple of years ago when I tried to publish this book, did the illustrations for me. And so I had a bunch of illustrations, but nothing to do with them. So I printed them out on paper. I cut them out. I glued them to cardboard. I went and grabbed a couple of cardboard boxes from the recycling bin behind my place and built little mini sets and just started building dioramas. And so from conception to completion was like about 48 hours when I was like, I think I'm going to do this. And I just did it. And I like ran to Michael's and bought some craft supplies. So I spent like $15 and 48 hours. I made this. Now I'm also a musician and my son is my music engineer. And so having that in-house makes it easy to do things quick. So I'm like, all right, kid, you're not paying rent. How about you do a little editing for me?
Nice. So you drew all the art?
I did not. Daniel Tolan is an illustrator from Sweden that I met online a long time ago trying to get this book made. And so he did the illustrations. And I told him I was doing this. He's like, great, send me the links. You know, so this is just a little experiment with some leftover art done by somebody else that I've reconfigured by cutting them out and making three-dimensional dioramas.
Okay, gotcha. I love I mean, everyone loves a cat, but like all the little everyday things that you don't think about in the context of how things in your world would interact with you if you weren't really, you know, alive anymore, if you were dead.
Oh yeah, the whole point of all of the poems was like a way to allow children to shift perspective. It's like, oh, let's think about it from this point of view. I've got another short that I just completed about a pumpkin, but it's set on Halloween, and so it's a slasher. You know, like being a pumpkin on Halloween is horrible, and so it's like the pumpkin's point of view, and it's a fun little, like, little bit grosser version, but it's the same concept. Like, yeah, let's look at it just a little askew.
Nice. Well, nice. I hope that you actually I hope that you continue to make these little bite-sized films because they're wonderful.
Oh, thank you very much. I think I will.
Okay. Peter, I would love to talk to you about Spaghetti Face. This is a really fun short, acted mainly by young actors, young people, and from their point of view. And it really has this great feeling of like, oh, sleep over in a dark cabin in the dark woods and let's tell stories to scare each other. Where did you come up with the actual stories that the kids were telling? And how did you find the actors in the film?
Oh yeah. Well, so my writing partner and I had been working on like a horror anthology series called Don't Be Scared, self-publishing them, putting them out on Amazon, and we've kind of just been writing like just different story after story. And we had been writing kind of we'd been writing some short stories here and there. So Spaghetti Face was one of them. Jimmy's Baked Beans was one of them. And we were kind of thinking about putting together a pitch package for like, hey, what if we could get these made in the movies? And our proof of concept was like, let's do a short film, because, you know, we can't just go and say like, hey, you know, we wanted to be able to give people kind of a taste of like what we're kind of going for. So then we kind of just started going, okay, cool, let's pull Spaghetti Face in, let's pull Jimmy's Baked Beans. And then it was like, well, we need something like really quick and short. So that's when we came up with The Hand. And it was like, let's do a quick, bite-sized horror anthology. Are you afraid of the dark? Like for you know, little short. And that's kind of, we took just some things that we had been working on before and just kind of smashed them together. And then, you know, in Cincinnati, we have a lot of friends who are really talented. And it was always in the back of my head, is like, man, if we wanted to do a film, we could do it. And it was like, okay, well, now's the time to do it. And that's kind of how we just started. Finding kid actors, good ones, is really hard. So I think my writing partner, Chris Orza, his kids are, you know, are really talented right off the bat. So we kind of like worked through that. And that's where we got Luke, he kind of played two parts. He was the storyteller for, he told the Jimmy Baked Bean stories. He also played his dad. And then we put an ad on Backstage, and just kind of like, we're like, I guess this is a way to find actors. And that's, we got Jace Carson and our other actors through that. So we were really lucky. You know, watching the film, they're really, really talented kids.
They were great. Yeah, they were great. And like everyone always says, like, kid actors, but it seems like a lot, for some reason in horror movies, tends to attract like pretty good child actors for some reason. So I don't know the rest of you. I know Dan and Ryan have a little bit of experience with that as well, but then we'll get to that. But yeah, Spaghetti Face just had this lovely sort of nostalgic, again, a kind of a gateway horror, as Sean was mentioning, a gateway horror feel to it, which is really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that the kind of thing you normally do, or do you do other projects like more adult geared?
So my background is in like comedy and advertising, and so I've kind of like always done kind of like narrative on the side. I'm kind of like a goofy, you know, I have a kind of a goofy sentiment about me anyway, but I do like, you know, the harder stuff, like It Follows, The Thing. So it's like, what if we did The Thing for kids, you know, like, so like little taste of that, that kind of thing. Since I grew up on it, it's really very familiar with me, and it's very true to my, you know, it's like, Are You Afraid of the Dark, scary stories to tell in the dark, like those things, for better or worse, like helped shape me who I am today.
Thank you. Dan Hickey, The Cookie Crumbles, which is I was sort of thinking it starts out one way. You think that she's trying to avoid the cookies, and then it ends up that she's trying to avoid the chipmunks themselves. And is this film because you can't walk out of the grocery store during Girl Scout cookie season without being bombarded with the fresh-faced Girl Scouts selling their delicious cookies?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not just the grocery store, really everywhere, including online. Now they're hardcore online. Yeah, both in wonderful ways and kind of slightly scary ways, right? Like all these wonderful, you know, charming girls are just out there making their pitch. And first of all, Girl Scout cookies are delicious, so we can never resist them. And then at the same time, you know, you go through and you really listen to their pitch, which are always amazing and kind of have the same framework. And you're like, oh my God, this is capitalism 101. You know, this is training for better or for worse. Like, you know, the future tycoons and leaders of America, very much in the Tracy Flick like election cycle. So yeah, they're both charming and lovely. And I'm always charmed by their pitches, and I can't resist. And it's just like, how can you? And they really, for a certain time of the year, they're like everywhere you turn. So that was the genesis, and then just wanted to put some twist in there.
And how did you go about recruiting all those children to be in your film?
Well, they were amazing, and really, honestly, just I know, again, people say like don't work with pets and kids, and my last film, which didn't take off, was all going to be dog focused, and this one had 18 girls running around in the middle of the night, and they were just amazing. I run the as you know, Gwen, like I run the Seattle Horror Filmmakers, so I'm very community oriented, and really just posting. A lot of my ex coworkers, their kids wanted to be in, and kids get that, like, making horror films, like, even if they don't like watching horror films, like making horror films is fun, right? Like, you get to throw blood on each other, you have body parts, you get to be up until midnight, and so honestly, like, I was having a tough shooting day beforehand, and then when I got to the night scenes with the kids, which everybody else was like, it's going to be a complete nightmare, they were amazing. They totally were just filled with energy and having a great time, and just really goofy and fun, and energized me. So yeah, I picked up kids from everywhere. Some of these kids are honestly like making films every week. It's astonishing how focused and creative they are. So they definitely inspire me, and every one of them, I was happy to work with them.
Nice, thank you so much. I'm gonna hop over to Anisha Savan. And was this your world premiere or US premiere of I'll Never Be Alive Again?
It actually is the world premiere of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll just change that on the website. I think it's the US, and I was like, I don't know if it was already shot. Anyway,
that's totally my bad. Sorry.
Congratulations. Thank you for letting us host your world premiere of this beautiful film. It's quite different in tone from Anisha. Also had a film in last year's festival, which was more of a horror comedy feeling to it with a twist. But this one is pretty serious and very touching and very, I think, timely for the world that we live in. Tell us a little bit about how you came at this story, and the casting, because the woman, the actress in it is just amazing.
Yeah, thanks. It is super different than like any of my other shorts that I've worked on. The other ones have been leaning more towards comedy, and this one's like just not funny at all. But yeah, it, like you said, it really is kind of a reflection of like our world right now, and kind of came from just like how I felt the last 2 years being in quarantine. Like I actually felt like a zombie in my apartment, like kind of secluded from the world. And, most of us felt that way. And so like, when you're alone with your thoughts for so long, and, you're just like thinking about the past, and you're just like, I personally like had like tremendous, like I had the worst depression I've ever had last year. And so like, this started off with like me kind of writing from like a cathartic place, like just trying to feel some therapy for myself. And I wasn't really even intending of like shooting it or like making a short. It was just kind of like, let me try to write a new story and just see where it goes. And then as I kept writing, the world just kept expanding, and like I just, the characters kind of just breathed a life of their own. And then I was like, you know what, maybe I should just shoot this. And so I just shot it in my apartment. So it was kind of strange to kind of like have it living in my head for so long, and like feel like, so like I just kind of related to the story and the character so much. So like actually filming it and like seeing it come to life was like really like a very strange experience, but very rewarding for sure. And the actress is amazing. Her name's Eshika Varshni, and she is the best. Like, I mean, she's probably one of the best actors I've ever worked with. There are a lot of like intense emotional scenes, and she like knocks it out of the park for sure.
If you had to describe your film to someone who wasn't familiar with zombies, how would you describe it?
Yeah, that's actually like a really good question because like I'm not like a big like I like zombies, but I'm not like a fanatic of zombie films or anything like that. So like when I thought of the concept for this, it was less about like it being like a zombie movie and more just a personal story and more than anything it's really like a story of like a haunting and so like yeah, I wouldn't even really categorize it as like it is like the main character is a zombie, but like I don't even think it's like a zombie movie, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I think it's I mean, you can lay whatever you want on zombie movies, generally speaking. It's a stand-in for, you know, some other thing that's going on. And I thought it was really interesting with the syringe and the treatment that she has to keep giving herself and how it makes her not quite present or makes her feel weird, because that's a common occurrence in people with mental health issues not wanting to take their medicine because it makes them feel like a zombie.
Right.
And I mean, right now with like people who are anti-vaccine that don't want to take it because you know, they don't know about it and things like that. So I think it's got a nice, a wider appeal than just the what's on the page.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's like it's a story of how she's like physically being brought back to life with like these medications, but that she's actually just having a really hard time like finding the will to live, even though she's like got this like second chance to live again. Like she's not allowing herself to do that. So I kind of wanted to play with that a little bit.
Interesting. So she's kind of in her own way. She's kind of getting in her own way of taking advantage of that second chance.
Exactly.
Makes
Exactly.
it even more tragic. That's well, thank you for making this beautiful film and for letting us host your world premiere.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Ryan Port, your film The Last Christmas is such a it's a horror comedy, but it's also child star, and the girls in your film were hilarious and spunky and everything. Were they siblings or were they just actors that you cast?
They were not siblings in real life. No, they were actors that we found and cast. Miley Hike is the young girl who plays Alice. So she's 8, but she was 10 at the time. Like she's scripted as 8, but she was 10 when we shot. And she kind of is the driving force of the film, or at least like the first half, and then it kind of transitions a bit more to the older one, kind of once we're in the exteriors. But given Miley's character kind of is the driving force and so much rides on her and her antics and her character, I knew that she was kind of the most important part of the film and the production. So as soon as we knew we were going to go to camera, we started searching for her. She was the first one that we sought. And it was probably like a 3 to 4 month period of finding her. Much like it was quite difficult to get young actors here in Toronto. I was trying to get ACTRA, so union actors, and I think given some of the content and some of the language the kids had to say, that parents were deterred. But there were a lot of parents and kids that were enthusiastic to drop F-bombs and reference Dexter and so forth. And Miley, she stood out in the forefront from the beginning. And during that 3-4 month period, there were quite a few, 3 or 4 strong candidates. And we went through callbacks. And then once we had Madison Chiatao, who plays Kirsten, the older sister, I brought her in to do live auditions, kind of my 3 favorite child actors. Madison, I had worked with before. I'm a first AD as my day job. This is my debut, my directorial debut. And I'd worked with Madison before as a first AD, so I was aware of her ability. I worked with her on Slasher, which is a TV series horror anthology. And then obviously once I saw the look of Miley, I instantly thought of Madison as a sister, because you even thought they could be real siblings. They look so much alike. So yeah, once the two of them audition together, it was pretty obvious choice.
They have a great dynamic. Like it's very, so you feel like they're actually sisters. That sort of like, totally love each other, but there's also a little thing there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes footage of Miley winding up Madison. And Madison, she just had her second child around the time we shot. So she had a child of her own of around 2. So you could see the motherliness coming out of her and her kind of seeing what her future holds for her with a little spunky daughter. It couldn't have worked better, in that regard, with their chemistry and dynamic. Yeah, it's great.
And the gentleman that you cast as Santa Claus was, I thought, a great choice because he was a little counterintuitive to the normal jolly, like plump, kindly Santa figure that we normally get. Mm-hmm. And he's like the Gregory House version of Santa.
Oh yeah, for sure. AC Peterson is, he's a Canadian gem, a Canadian icon. He's been in, over 150 movies, TV series. He's very much a character actor. I hadn't worked with him, but he was highly recommended to me by 2 other kind of seasoned Canadian actors I'd worked with. And I didn't audition him. I just watched his tapes and his showreel and stuff. And from that, I knew he would bring everything I wanted. And in regards to that character, it is very much like you say, like I wanted the Santa Claus, or like Father Christmas, as we called him in England, which is where I'm from. I didn't want him to be that kind of jolly fantasy person that we're kind of presented with as children. I wanted him to be a bit more grounded, a bit more human. But my main goal was to kind of combine the myths of both Santa and Krampus into one person, so that there isn't both Santa and Krampus. It's just the one character, and he, gives you gifts and stuff for being good, but also punishes you for being bad, as the girls may find out. You'll have to watch to see. I couldn't resist. It just came. It happened.
So good.
Always
always be pitching.
So I have a question about the elves. How did you achieve that? Was somebody just throwing them at the girls, or like, how did that work?
For the most part, yes. Basically, I paid for 1.5 gremlins to be made. So basically, I have the full-size puppet in my home. So we had a full-size puppet and then like a half-hand puppet that could be controlled for fighting and stuff. So that was a very good experience. And obviously, with limited budgets and time constraints of like indie movies and stuff, you can't do all the child's play things you want and do like wide shots of elf walking around and things, which is why a lot of that kind of montage is very tight and close-up stuff. But yes, for the most part, there was just people throwing elves at people. 2 men in green suits, which we had to paint out in a couple of shots. And then, for a lot of the tights, we used the handheld ones, which is someone kind of manipulating it over people's shoulders, biting into heads, that kind of thing. It was very much a new experience for me, working with puppets. I kind of knew that's what I had to do. Like having a child in a suit wouldn't have worked. So yeah, it was very much love-hate. I kind of never want to do it again, but also very much do. And do want to go full-on child's play, where I have a kid in a suit in wides and stuff like that. So maybe this is step 1 to go and do that for next year's festival.
The gateway drug to more stuff.
What we do to ourselves is creative.
Yeah. I thought it gave it a nice uncanny feeling to what was happening, which seemed appropriate for magical creatures to be giving off that kind of vibe.
Yeah, thanks. And a lot of people have mentioned that it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like there's a little bit of foreshadowing with some statues and some dialogue early on. But in all honesty, I kind of wrote myself into a corner and was like, how do I finish this off? And it's like, I just kill people with some puppets and that'll be good. You're going to cut that, right?
Love it. So very, very exciting. Have you all had a chance to watch each other's films yet, or not? Not yet.
No, not yet, but excited to do it. Yeah.
Well,
Can't
everyone,
wait.
hopefully everyone who's been watching has had a chance to watch the films, so we didn't spoil anything for them. But we, yeah, like, thank you so much for sharing your films with us. We're really excited to have them in our program and excited for people to watch. And even though, you know, they're all horror movies, we did kind of present today as a more family-friendly block. Not exactly family-friendly, but more like if you have, you know, young teenagers that are interested in coming to the horror film festival, like this is probably a good block to introduce them with. So thank you for bringing your horror sensibilities to a younger audience.
Perfectly happy to corrupt the youth of this world.
Yeah.
Great.
That's where it all starts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we say goodbye to everyone, I would love to go around and have you give us where we can find you online, whether that be your film website or an Instagram where people can learn more about you and your films. And I'm going to start with Hassan.
Yeah, so you can find out more about The Strongbox on Instagram at thestrongbox.shortfilm. And then and that will take you through the journey of this particular film. And then all the other work that I'll be doing will be at Huge Hype Films, also on Instagram, Huge Hype Films.
Cool. And Peter, how about you?
I'm also on Instagram. Our whole series is Don't Be Scared Books. So that's at Don't Be Scared Books on Instagram. So you can see some of the books, behind the scenes of the short, and any of the future kind of hijinks where we get into. And me personally, I'm at PD Raber on Instagram as well. And I kind of post other kind of things there, obviously, since we do post on Instagram.
Sean, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at the Sean Keller, where you're mostly going to see me taking pictures with my fiance Chelsea Stardust, because that's all we do is seem to take pictures together constantly, like some sort of narcissistic weirdos. But I will keep you up to date with stuff there. Also on Twitter at _Sean Keller is where you're going to find me hawking my horror Halloween albums and short films.
Hey, we love Chelsea Stardust.
Same.
Dan, how about you?
Yeah, for this film specifically on Instagram, the Cookie Crumbles film. And then again, like, you know, a lot of my stuff just in general, and inviting all the fellow filmmakers to join Seattle Horror Filmmakers on Facebook and Instagram. You know, Seattle's in the title, but really we have horror filmmakers and creators from all over the world. So would love for you to join. And then a lot of my films are on Flender Brothers on YouTube, both a mix of horror and non-horror that I've written and directed. So you can find me in a couple places. Yeah.
How about you, Anisha? Where do we find you?
Yeah, so the film has its own Instagram. It's at Never Alive Film. And then you can also find me, AnishaSavon.com. I've got like links to my past films and stuff. So
great. Yeah, check those out. And Ryan Port, where can we find you?
Unfortunately, Universal Studios own lastchristmas.com for their Last Christmas movie. So you can find my film at thelastchristmasfilm.com. You can also find The Last Christmas across all social medias at The Last Xmas Film. And considering this is my debut, I don't have a website yet, but you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Ryan Port or ryan.port.thefirst.
Very nice. Well, thank you all so much. Again, thank you for taking time to speak with me about your films. And we hope that everyone watching got a little deeper understanding, glimpse behind the scenes of these wonderful films as well. If you happen to be watching this and haven't seen these films yet, they're streaming on portlandhorror.eventive.org. until Wednesday, July 6th. So check those out. You'll have a chance to catch up on anything else you might have missed as well. And then join in the conversation on the Portland Horror Discord server, which is the invite link is, if you type into your browser bit.ly/PHFF Discord, and you can jump on there and talk with other audience members and with the filmmakers. You can talk with each other and talk with the audience members. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Brian, for hosting this. It's an amazing festival.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys. I'm behind the scenes here. But thank you.
Go know the voice.